this is not right, because I'm an Israeli and I'm a Jew, and he is an anti-Semite Nazi, right? He's not supposed to say my name. He's not supposed to compliment me. I'm not supposed to say thank you for saying my name and endorsing my message. No, no, no. You're not allowed to say that. You're supposed to be a good Jew and just shut up and don't criticize your country, don't criticize your whatever, where you come from, don't mention your military experience, don't do any of that. Just stay quiet, because you don't have an approval, a permission to speak out.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. You look like you're in a beautiful place. What's going on with you?
I'm in Bali.
Yeah. It looks fantastic where you are.
It is. It's awesome. I'm in a pretty secluded place.
Yeah,
Only two cabins, middle of farmland, nature, 20
nice.
minutes from the beach. Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, you look so relaxed too. Must be good.
I'm working on it.
I hear you're causing trouble in the Twitter sphere, or the X sphere, we should say.
I always cause trouble somewhere. Yeah, this time it was.
You
Yeah,
and your defending
I didn't
free
even do
speech.
anything this time. I
You
mean,
didn't
I
do
did.
anything?
I wrote something, but like we're getting to a stage where it's enough to just write a post to just make the world blow up, you
Yeah.
know? We're at that weird stage where the world is so explosive. People are on the edge.
Hmm.
There's so much apprehension, so much anxiety and stress and fear and hate and anger and all that, that people come at you from all directions
Yeah, for sure.
if you say one thing that doesn't line up with their worldview.
Which is easy to do these days. I mean, like, it's very easy to not line up with anything that is considered counter narrative, and things like that. So that's not a difficult thing to do. But I mean, you and your free thinking mind have been sort of up to no good for a few years now, at least as long as I've become aware of you anyway. So this is nothing new to you. But what exactly did you do? I don't really keep up with a lot of the sort of goings on of like X and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I get things that come into my peripherals, but for the most part, I try and tune out to the majority of it because
Yeah,
I don't know.
which is
I
very
feel like
smart.
it. Say, what's that again?
It's very smart, I think.
Well, I don't know if it is because some people ask me certain questions expecting that I'm all over the answer, and I'm not, and I come across as naive or sort of stupid in a sense. Like I'm not also saying that I'm burying my head in the sand and I'm just singing Kumbaya and pretending that there's no weeds, all that kind of stuff. I'm very much aware of like exactly what's happening on a 30,000 foot view, but I mean the nuances of things I don't really pay attention, to be honest with you. So and I don't think anyone can, to the degree that it's like right across the spectrum of everything, because at the moment, I mean, you must
No,
agree. I
no,
mean,
it's
what do you
impossible.
fucking focus on at the moment? Every 5 minutes is like, there's something new to pay attention to, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a real battle on our attention. There always has been, but now it's like on steroids, so it's a little bit
Mm,
crazy. And I totally identify with what you're saying. You can't keep up.
mm,
And also in order to maintain your mental stability and your mental health, you have to tune out. Because if you are switched on all the time and trying to stay updated with everything and the latest detail on this and on that, you just lose it at one point. You become so tired and so drained.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea for anyone to try and be super up to date with everything right now. I think it's actually better to go out to nature and touch grass and ground and just pray.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you do that keeps you grounded and holds you to your center and have an open channel to the other realms. I think that's very smart right now. But to your question, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done? So basically, I woke up one morning and I saw that a dialogue, an interview between Tucker Carlson and Bret Weinstein on
Mm,
Bret's podcast had a few good minutes that they were speaking about me.
mm,
I didn't do anything. I just woke up one morning and someone sent me that clip or tagged me on that clip where Tucker is actually saying, yeah, but there are a lot of good patriotic Israelis that are actually sick of everything that's going on, and they've been brave enough to speak despite of the censorship. And one of them is me. One of them is Efrat, and she's very brave and she's very intelligent. And I like her very much. I don't agree with what she thinks about Bitcoin, but
yeah.
but I respect her very much because she was spot on calling out on October 7th and saying that what has happened was not a typical response and based on our military experience, etc. And he was basically describing me and my response to the October 7th
Yeah.
situation. And that was really nice. And obviously Bret answered him and told him that I was a guest on his show, and he told him a little bit about the conversation we had.
It was a
And
very
my photo
positive
was there as
monologue.
well.
Like it wasn't negative at all. You know, Tucker was
No, it
right on
wasn't
the
a
middle of
negative.
like saying, like you said, he kind of said, look, I don't agree on everything she says, but I certainly agree on some things. And then Brett intervened and said, look, I've had her on my show and she's everything you see is the real deal. She's he
Yeah.
spoke very highly of you. I didn't see what was anything.
Yeah, that was all normal. That was all good, I think. But there are two issues here. One is the fact that my name was carried out through the mouth of Tucker Carlson in the
Yeah.
eyes of Jewish people, Israelis who are Zionists or Zionists that are non-Jewish and Israelis, which you
Mhm.
have as well, right?
Yes.
Christians, etc. Um, this is not right because I'm an Israeli and I'm a Jew, and he is an anti-Semite Nazi, right? He's not
Mhm.
supposed to say my name. He's not supposed to compliment me. I'm not supposed to say thank you for saying my name and endorsing my message. No, no,
Mhm.
no. You're not allowed to say that. You're supposed to be a good Jew and just shut up and don't criticize your country, don't criticize your whatever, where you come from, don't mention your military experience, don't do any of that, just stay quiet because you don't have an approval, a permission to speak out. Now,
Mhm.
these are the voices that come out. These are the bots. These are the keyboard heroes, I call them, the ones that are so strong behind the keyboard and they come at you at 100 miles an hour and just, they'll call you, this is a real witch hunt, right? They'll call you a self-hating Jew. That's like the most mild name I've been called. And lately I've been called a pet Jew of a Nazi.
Wow.
It's like the things are just going ballistic.
Yeah, that's
Okay, now,
crazy.
so the first reason is because he mentioned my name and
Mm.
they talked about me without me even doing anything. But the second reason is because I took, like, with all the chutzpah that I have as an Israeli, I took the liberty of actually writing a post and posting the clip and giving my opinion about this. Oh my God, what have you done now? And I did that. So I had the audacity of writing a relatively, medium-sized post. I can read it to you if you want, and you tell me if
Oh,
it's radical or
yeah,
tell me
yeah.
if it's
Good
like,
enough.
more or less balanced. Okay, let me read it to you. So I said, thank you, Tucker and Bret, for mentioning my modest contribution. Yes, there's a lot of censorship in Israel and on Israelis through the following channels. Explicitly through military and legal censorship. You can end up in jail if you don't comply. Implicitly through heavy societal pressure and violent discourse, followed by mainstream media ridiculing, slandering that can and does easily deteriorate to witch hunt. Through heavy psychological programming or indoctrination of Jews in and outside of Israel to automatically reject any criticism of the state of Israel as a mental rug pull to their identity and very basic survival and existence. And to top it all off, a very well-oiled Zionist propaganda machine that will counteract and censor any dissident voice. All these are tentacles of a complete apparatus of narrative and mind control. I promise you, there are many Israelis who are sick of the regime's crimes, the wars, the endless psychological stress loop, the societal divide, and the gaslighting. And no, not all Israelis are bad or sick, as is so popular to regurgitate on X right now. The people are not the state. Unfortunately, you won't find many Israelis who see the bigger picture outside of the left-right polarity or the pro-anti Bibi Netanyahu. On the most part, those who object Benjamin Netanyahu, think the answer will come from the other side of highly corrupt politicians, like the left side, right? These anti-Bibi so-called leftists will be the useful idiots to bring about the next regime change in Israel, and another puppet politician will be elected to lead. I took a step back from speaking out about this heavily, yes, Tucker. It's both because of censorship, but also due to the heavy real price I may end up paying in my personal life. I was already heavily attacked for my views and paid a price. I really don't think the world is ready or wants to hear my views that are still considered outrageous or radical or just plain crazy. Try being a patriot Israeli Jew that does not support Zionism, occupation, left-right, or any other type of state control or intervention, and believes in separation of money and state, religion and state, sound money and Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin, which returns power to the people, and just wants liberty, dignity, and peace for humans. Not so easy to swallow. Maybe in a few years, when the darkness dies down and light starts shining stronger again. That's it. That was my post.
Yeah. This is fairly
And I got a lot of shit for that. One of the people that, one of those notorious keyboard heroes is your Aussie friend, Avi Amini, who rushed out. Oh, yeah, he rushed out to start commenting and sharing my post everywhere, saying, what the hell has happened with you? Selling yourself so short to get a tap from Tucker.
Wow.
They talked about me without even doing anything. So no, I'm not doing this to get a tap, Mr. Avi. I don't give a fuck about people saying stuff or not saying stuff about me. If it was all about clout, oof, believe me, I could have done a lot more. What I'm doing is because I have a mission and a vision, and I believe in a world where we drop down our guards and can live peacefully again and stop with the endless wars and give power back to the people and build sovereignty and independence on the personal level, on the individual level. But for Avi, it was very easy to criticize the Israeli government and any other government during COVID when it matched his mental model and narrative. But now when it comes to Zionism, no, you can't criticize the Israeli government. They are holy and pure, right? So
the same thing.
He told me, what's going on with you? You're very inconsistent. And I'm like, I'm inconsistent? I'm very consistent, if anything. I have been criticizing the government all along because I see their corruption in any area of our lives. But you, mister, are very inconsistent with choosing and picking and choosing when you should be glorifying them because it matches with your worldview, or when they are committing a sin during COVID, right? So, very hypocritical. And
Yeah.
many people joined him on this march. So I just said, fuck this. I'm not doing this for all this fake engagement anyway. So I just switched out of X for a few days. I'm here in nature in Bali, just like speaking to the birds and the trees and having a great time. And
Sounds like just
obviously
exactly
I'm
what you'd
also
like to do.
very worried and sad about the war and the situation back home. My family's there, everyone's there, and it's
Mm.
not fun at all. But I definitely don't want to waste my time and energy on stupid, engagements like that. It's just not
Yeah,
worth it. My whole thing is less war, less violence. So why would I want to engage in this kind of discourse with people?
for sure.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know Avi. I have seen a few things of him, particularly during the pandemic and things like that. But he seems like his whole business model is a clickbait sort of angle to, anything that's going to, I don't know, get a lot of looks and likes and shares and views and things like that. He's sort of a bit of a antagonist and rage baiter and all that kind of stuff, which I guess like during COVID, I think people probably really liked. He used to give the police shit and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it does seem
He
like
did
he's
really
sort of
important
flip-flopped.
work during COVID.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm saying, just to give him the credit, I think he did really important work during COVID. And
Agreed.
I really thought that it was needed and thought that it was useful.
But I
Yeah,
think you
but
can't. What you said, I don't think is there's anything untrue in the things that you've said. You can't appreciate, like, say from Avi's perspective, you can't say during COVID, for example, that there's tyrannical governments, there's this imposing rule of law over everyone, there's division, there's segregation of human species into unvaccinated and vaccinated and things like that, and then not have that same moral high ground and principles when it comes to virtually the same thing. It's the only difference is we're adding in government or not so much government, but religion and things like that is
identity, yeah, nationalistic and religious
that's
identity.
right. But to your point in your tweet or in your X post is you can't say that, like, for example, during COVID, the police that were following orders, like, and doing the wrong thing and rubber bullets and being heavy-handed, that's the rotten apple that spoils the barrel. Not all police are bad. And it's just like saying not all government officials are bad or all politicians are bad. You can't say all Jews are bad. I mean, like this whole sort of movement at the moment, from what
Okay.
I see on my side, is it's almost like this expose to say it's been the Jews all the time. They
Yeah.
control every single thing. And I guess there is a large amount of documented evidence to support that could be well and truly correct, but it doesn't mean that all Jews are bad. And Bret Weinstein is a great example of someone who's like Dave Smith, another great example of someone who's saying, like, I'm not a self-hating Jew. I just don't want people to die unnecessarily in stupid wars that are dividing countries and dividing religion and basically killing tens of thousands or millions of people just unnecessarily. These forever wars and things like that, that particularly in America, which was a political campaign that Donald Trump pretty much got voted on, was to say, I'm not for all of these things, I'm anti-establishment. And then for all of this to come to fruition, where he's pretty much like every other fucking politician that's around, it's just like it's
Here's another rug pull for you.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought we finally had a good guy. And you know what? I will freely admit I was paying very much close attention to the election in America because, and Australia, as you know, we kind of really are following whatever America's lead is, right? And a lot of the world seems to be the same. But I was kind of really supportive to say that, look, he has his faults, but it's obviously the lesser of two evils. I'd prefer him over Kamala and all the rest of it. I was very happy and elated, to the degree that he was now going to effect change, particularly because RFK was involved. Like I had interviewed him a couple of years ago at the outset of the pandemic. I was just that it seemed like he had the right bones, if that makes sense, to kind of make or effect change. But man, I am so disappointed. Like this fucking guy is just like the rest of them. And it's such a bitter disappointment in how things have progressed and transpired since then.
Yeah, I think many people are disillusioned with politicians these days, which is great. It needs to happen at one point, because if you haven't learned the lesson yet, that you can't put your trust in a politician or a government, then you will learn the lesson at some point, whether it's
Correct.
from within your home or outside. They are showing us their true faces again and again and again. And the whole point is that they are not really what we call world leaders, right? They are just puppets. Like there are other shadow governments behind them really running the show, and they will succumb to they will capitulate to pressure. And they are being presented with a lot of pressure, with a lot of blackmail, with a lot of coercion to show them the trajectory they need to take in order to appease their puppet masters. And so they do it. And I am sorry to disappoint people who think that Benjamin Netanyahu controls Trump or controls the world. And I am the number one person who wants Benjamin Netanyahu to go home. I'm not a fan of him at all, but he does not control Trump. He does not control the world. Trump doesn't control him either. It's like, if anything, Trump has more power than him. Like, he came to visit Trump 8 times in the last couple of years in the White House. You don't come to pay a visit to the number one president of the world if you haven't done something wrong. It's like going to the principal
Really?
office in school. You
Uh-huh.
don't go there 8 times just because you've been a great boy, but because you've been a bad boy and people are not happy with you. So
Right.
I really believe that while people are so easily being dragged into easy to digest narratives, easy to digest explanations, simplified narratives that would just make it all seem so, oh, that makes sense then. That, everything now is a lot more simple if you look at it through that lens. Like you said before, maybe Jews run the world. It's like, but unfortunately, the world is so much more complex than that.
Mm.
If you need a proof for that, just look at nature. There is a web of relationships and entities running around at every given moment, pulling tensions to different directions. It's very hard to predict what the next thing that's going to happen.
Mhm.
And that's similarly to what you see now with all those wars. It's very hard to predict because each one is trying to pull to their direction, exerting their agendas, their interests, and their powers, and it changes the picture all the time. And so, yes, it's very easy to just name drop, the 13 families, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Jews, the Zionists. It's like, it's very easy. It makes us feel a little bit more relaxed that we know, but we really don't know. I mean, even us that, we try to think of ourselves with a little bit more critical thinking, and we do our own research, and we go and investigate stuff, and we
Mm.
have podcasts, and, we really care. We do the work. I don't think I can say that I know. It's like very complex, very, very complex. And I'm
Agreed.
not trying to discredit anyone. Like, if you've done a lot of research and you know your shit, awesome, like great. I just think that the common man it's just very hard to keep track of all of this, and it's on purpose. And I don't think it really is important. What's important in the end of the day is, how does this impact your life, and what can you do to try and create a better future and a better reality where you're at, to your close community and family. Because
Correct.
looping back to what I said in the beginning, I really just think that it's a waste of time and energy to try and figure it all out and be updated all the time and think that if we are, then it makes a grand difference in the world.
Mm.
So, and another thing is, it's just that, I am, people often say, with the self-hating thing, just
Yeah.
because they criticize, and I don't give a fuck. You know, I don't hate myself. I love myself very much, and I also love my heritage, and I love my family, and I love all of that, my lineage, and I think that um Israelis have really great things to offer to the world, and yeah, Jewish people, it's like Christian people. I know Muslim people that are awesome. Like everyone's awesome. It's like all that stuff is there to intensify the divide and conquer. So now it's a religion thing. You know, it's like your identity broken down to the religion. First it's nationalistic, then it's did you take the vaccine or not? It's like it always there is something to get us to fight with each other and hate each other and divide us based on some ground. And I refuse to take part in this party because it's like I don't care what your religion is or national identity or any other race or color. I really don't care. I only care about your heart and your deeds and your ethics and your morals and values. Are you a good person or not? Do you care about humanity or not? Like that's the divide we should have. And then when we start looking at life from that prism, we can very easily point the finger at the powers that just are obsessed with death and destruction and creation of excess debt in the world that enslaves us all. And then we need to start asking ourselves, okay, so how do I step out of that?
Agreed.
Yeah. I think that's a more constructive way of living your life.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I'm right with you. To echo the things that you've said, I mean, I in Australia, as you know, because you lived here for many years, is like it's a melting pot of many different nationalities. You know, my mum's Australian born, my dad's from Italy, but growing up in high school, I mean, you know, we had every ethnic denomination that was in our like Christian school, you know, so we had whatever Lebanese, you know, Macedonian, Turkish, like it doesn't matter. They were all there. All of my friends back then, they weren't all like Luke and David and Joshua. You know what I mean? It was Adnan and Abdul and yeah, Danielo and you know like Vin and you know all this kind of like everyone. You know, it was
Yeah.
just like a big melting pot, and still to this day, like I've got many connections and friends of all different ethnicities, and they're amazing people. So in Australia, as you know, like there's this whole thing about immigration and all the rest of it. I understand that, you know, like I get the whole factor that you can and should probably limit immigration to the degree that it's affecting the people that are currently living in terms of living standards, housing, all that kind of stuff. That just makes logical sense to say, listen, slow down on the amount of people that are coming in until we catch up on the housing and like I said, economically we can make sure that we have the resources to provide for all these people, right? So no one's going without. It makes perfect sense. But to say that everything's being taken over by Muslims and Sharia law and all this kind of stuff, I don't know. I think it's a stretch. And at the same time, I guess we're still running the same play. The way that I see it is the divide and conquer strategy, which is very successful and has been for thousands of years, is still being played out. And so, and if you know anything about the media, as you know, like it's just they fucking lie, and everything's
Straight up.
curated to the degree that it makes it look like the world is crumbling and crashing down. But just like through COVID, and just when I started speaking out, I was like, listen, what you're seeing on the news and depicted in the mainstream media is not what I see when I go outside. When I go out my doorstep and I'm allowed to go 5 kilometers away from my home, no one's fucking dying in the streets. Okay, no one is suffering to the degree where they're gasping for air and their whole health is declining. No one's got any lesions on their face. They don't look like fucking zombies walking around. It just seems like business as usual. And I can tell you that because I'm like there with my phone down the beach taking a selfie with 10,000 other people that are roaming the streets because we can't fucking work. I'm like, make this make sense to me that we've got these massive pandemic that's going to kill everyone, but we're all allowed out. This doesn't make any sense. It's the same when it comes to Zionism and when it comes to, these religious wars, and when it comes to all this kind of stuff. It's just like, show me. When I go out in the streets, I'm not getting attacked. I'm not saying that there aren't attacks that happen. I'm not saying that there are people that do like these atrocious acts and things like that. That has gone on forever. I mean, it's in the Bible. I mean, they did this since the dawn of
The
time.
only
There's nothing
difference
new under the
is
sun.
that the media has the power to amplify the events that they want to amplify. And by that, they create a disproportionate power to the events they want to use as a justification to clamp down on your rights in any way. And that's what they do over and over again. That's why they create a lot more media narrative and discussion and engagement around topics that will be related to hurting people when they want to vilify that group, like Muslims, right? Yeah. Or same with the Jews, like they want to now pass a hate speech law, anti-Semitism. Great, let's clamp down on that. No, the Sydney, where was it? The Bondi massacre. It did happen. My friend was there. His life was saved by miracle. So it happened, of course. But then the question is, are you just using those events disproportionately and amplifying them to then create your landscape that you need to justify your political actions that are coming next? Or are those things, if you take them statistically speaking, happening all the time, and we don't take them out of proportion when we don't need to? So is this a weapon? And the sad answer is probably they're using people's lives and horrible events all the time as a weapon against us to justify the next thing. But the important thing to just be aware of is that all those small gradual steps that you're seeing, that you're correctly identifying as clamping down on more of our freedoms and rights, starting with COVID, started a long time ago. But, with COVID, we really saw it, and it was a lot more clear from that point onward. And then over the past 5-6 years, we've just been seeing it accelerate and happen again and again and again. And the reason is because we're getting closer to 2030, where the United Nations Agenda 2030 needs to be implemented in most of the countries around the world. And Australia has been, for some sad reason, chosen to be one of the flagship countries to implement a lot of those measures before other countries, so that we can all learn from what's happening in Australia. And I visited recently for 3 weeks, and I visit often, but I visited recently, and I had conversations with various people on my podcast, including Senator Alex Antic, which you know well. And we talked about where is Australia heading and why all that stuff is happening and all these new laws are popping, and is there hope for Australians? And in my, just like comparing this to other countries and to many other things I see around the world, I believe that things are going to get quite difficult for Australians in the near future, in the next couple of years. You're already in recession. And again, speaking of lying, the media is lying to you, saying that you're not, that the economy is blooming, and it's not. You're in recession. So if you speak to really smart, economically educated and Bitcoiners or financial wizards in Australia, and I am speaking to those people, then they're looking at the numbers, they're looking at the charts. They can tell you that the economic situation in Australia is dire, and it's just getting worse and worse. And the fears and the pains that young Australians are feeling right now are very real. Like the housing crisis and mortgages, all that stuff is super real. The energy it's insane to see how it's happening in almost every vertical in life in Australia. And my son lives in Australia, so I really do care about what's happening, and I keep a close track of things. And that's why I keep going back again and again to try and educate people about sound money and why they need to take care of themselves and go and learn about money and how to hedge their wealth right now. Because if they don't do that, they may end up in the next couple of years with a big debt. The
Yeah.
inflation is going to be quite severe. They're going to print more money. They're going to dilute you. You're going to see your money be worth less and less. You're going to be forced to work harder to earn the same amount of money. And your assets may yield not as much, depending on
Mm.
what kind of assets you hold. So it's
Agreed.
critically, I think, at this point in time to educate yourself financially and in terms of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, one thing that we can both agree on is that the agenda, if you're across it, has not changed. So, we can add any kind of layer of separation, war, anything that on an economic level, like, I think, I'm not sure what it's like in Bali, but at the moment, it's just, there seems to be that sort of disease epidemic is starting to be floated out again. They're starting to ramp up things towards winter and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's just like you can add whatever element you want onto it, but I don't think if you scratch the surface enough, I don't think you can deny that there is an agenda that will basically have this overarching crippling of society. And whether that
Yeah.
means economically, physically, mentally, I mean, this is
Yeah.
one big mind fuck,
Yeah.
this whole thing.
Yeah.
And so those
Yeah.
people who went through the COVID psyop, which I think you and I are on the same page, was a curated event that was designed to work exactly as it did. I think October 7th was exactly the same. I think this war in Iran is exactly the same. Like add in any other amazing thing that's just set the world on fire, petrol prices, all the rest of it. This is all, in my opinion, undeniably obvious that it's siphoning money out of the economy and out of your pockets to the point where you're just at your wits' end. So, you're going to be brought to your knees and then you're going to be begging for a solution. And then,
Yeah.
CBDCs, universal basic income, like, you name whatever they've already touted as the solution to, one world government and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be the ushering in of a new era. So, to your point, though, I
Yeah.
mean, last time we spoke, I mean, we spoke pretty much about becoming sovereign as like economically as an individual, and I think to the point that we first spoke of when I said I find it difficult to focus on a lot of different things at any one time. I need to limit my distractions. I've already got like, shiny objectitis anyway. So I need to limit the things, but I also need to make sure that I'm focusing on what's important in
Exactly.
front of me. I think when some people tout the idea that we are in a spiritual war, I believe that, although that there's globally that's happening to everyone, your spiritual war and my spiritual war is within this, I don't know, 2 to 3 meters circumference of the energy frequency that I emit. Does that make sense? So my spiritual war is right in front of me. It's the actions that I can take right now to better prepare and resolve within myself that I have the ability, capability, knowledge to weather any storm. So that is physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, like, all of those things together. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I agree. I do think that there is some that's going into a more spiritual discussion. There are dark forces out there really doing their bidding with humanity as a species. But we won't go there. I do agree with you that the only thing that can make a difference is taking care of your immediate surrounding and your immediate future or situation, living situation, etc. And so yeah, I'm aligned with that. I
Why
did want
can't we
to.
go there spiritually? Why can't we do that?
Oh
Can we
well,
have that
I
conversation?
don't know. It sounds too woo-woo to too many
Too
people.
esoteric.
Too esoteric, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is really something. I mean, I know that there are bioweapons that are targeted towards humanity, not
Mm,
just through, vaccines or pharma products, but also through chemtrails, geoengineering, and frequencies, which is the most important thing. So those people who are running those dark shows that you can learn about if you wanted to by going to, for example, the US Patent Office or any other CIA documentation. And there are many sources that you can go to research about those things. You can follow people as brave as Sabrina Wallace, for example,
mhm,
that talks about the biofield that is around us and how they are manipulating our biofield using um, frequencies, radiations, and starting from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth to any type of technology, they can intercept our biofield, which is a very real thing that we
mm,
have around us. I mean, in the spiritual realm, many people call it aura, but there is a biological field around us, and it's a topic of research and interest for technological and biological companies for many, many years. This is not a new thing. And especially those of you who come from an IT background like me. I have a degree in computer science, and I've been around tech for most of my life since I was 21 years old. There are companies and technologies and protocols, technological protocols that are harnessing wireless um, networks to infiltrate our biological fields. And we don't know about it. And oftentimes we will attribute it to food and mood and external factors that are easy for us to attribute it to. But sometimes it's really the frequency that they're sending out through different methods. 5G towers is like the easy one, but there are other HARP and other facilities that are emitting frequencies to the air through the air to harm people.
mm.
And it works, unfortunately. And you can measure those things with, with meters, different types of wireless radiation meters. You can just dive deeper into that rabbit hole if you're interested in learning about that. But that is the realm for me where spirituality meets the physical world. And I believe that those frequencies that are being used on the human psyche and on human bodies are affecting our spiritual being and our mental being very much,
Agreed.
not just our physiological situation. And we are on the most part not aware of it. We're not educated about frequencies. We're not educated about radiation, about wireless stuff. And I think that's super important to educate oneself on that, because you can start with small habits in your life to change things around you. And just by being aware of that, you'll be able to also feel it and tune into it a lot more. And maybe you also won't feel like you're crazy. Maybe that migraine is not a migraine. Maybe, I don't know, like there are some, and I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a humble student, but I think that the studies I've been doing around that topic of biological warfare and biofields and and wireless harms is very beneficial to me, because I can do things in my life to help myself. Like this, for example, this is a blanket I carry with me.
Mm.
I'm a nomad, right? So I travel light, but I bought this blanket. Actually, I bought it in Australia, that has silver lining,
Yeah,
and it blocks radiation.
the EMF.
So especially when I fly, but not just, even when I go to sleep, I use this blanket to cover as much as I can to block radiation so
Yeah.
that, they don't come in.
Isn't that where the tinfoil hat expression comes from?
And it's true. Guess what? Guess what? It's true. I had a
Yeah,
wonderful discussion with uh Dr. Alexis Cohen on my podcast.
yeah,
It's an episode I highly recommend people
yeah. She's
to
great.
listen to about all these things. And she's a researcher of the topic, so highly
Yeah,
recommend to listen to that. And
I discovered
yeah,
her through Jack Cruz.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So I
she's going to come on the
interviewed
show
them.
hopefully soon.
Oh, wonderful. Great.
Mm.
So I had them on a panel in Prague at the Bitcoin conference.
Nice.
They're both Bitcoiners, so we had a panel about health and wealth and all these things. So yeah, we connected
Yeah.
there, and then we did podcasts. I mean, there's so much wealth out there. You just really need to be smart about, like you said, where you put your attention. Is it going to be beneficial for you or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Look, I think if back to the frequency thing, I think if people just know on a basic level that everything on this planet is energy and emits a frequency, and even your thoughts have a frequency. So the one that I think a lot of people will relate to is like the fact that you can speak to a certain topic or whatever, and then all of a sudden on your phone you get a ad that is, coming up with something that's related to what you were talking about. But it can also pick up on frequencies of thoughts, and particularly when you're using electromagnetic frequencies in terms of like Bluetooth and things like that, Bluetooth headphones, like it's picking up on all of those frequencies. And so if you add into that 5G, if you add into all of the networks that we're currently surrounded by, because if you're just in your home, if you're not hardwired into everything, like your phones are pinging every second of every minute of every day, and they're also bouncing off all of the 5G towers and all the rest of it. Like our bodies are getting attacked all the time. All you have to really know is that if that's not going to mess up your whole frequency, then I don't know how else to really help you. But on a very, very basic level, if you're trying to ground yourself a lot more in terms of switching off the Wi-Fi, using those blankets. I know when I spoke to Matt Landman, who is the creator of the documentary Frankenskies, I think it's called. Same thing. He's got a whole
yeah,
repertoire of different things,
yeah.
hats and all that kind of stuff that you can wear. But yeah, tinfoil hat. That's where it all
Yep, that's where it comes
started
from.
from.
But
Yeah.
also, I want to add, to just like maybe go a little bit deeper on one of the things I mentioned. When I say that those frequencies are also being um, used by the powers that be, they know how to get people to lower frequencies. And the media is obviously doing a great job at sustaining that so
Mhm.
that they can harvest that. I mean, this is where it goes to the woo-woo stuff, but the actual, creatures out there that are creating all this death and destruction in the world are actually feeding off of our lower frequencies. So
Frequencies.
when we're in anger and fear and rage and shame and greed and all those frequencies,
Yeah.
this is serving them. It is
Mm.
serving them. This is, people think it's like woo-woo stuff, but it does. And you can be manipulated and taken advantage of a lot easier if you stick around in those lower frequencies. And it's not about that quick fix. People say, oh, just raise your frequency and just be happy. So no, you got to do
Absolutely.
You got to do the work, or you got to, like, speak to your God, whatever your God is, and just open a channel and pray and bring in the light of God to try and clear you from that obsession to be glued into the lower frequencies. But just be aware that there are forces out there that are feeding off your low vibes, and this creates a collective consciousness. And if the
Yeah.
collective consciousness is that low, which it is right now, it is so low, it's at its lowest, which is what we
Mm.
started this conversation with, and how people are just like at each other, they're on the edge, then that serves a purpose. And
Yeah.
when humanity is in that low of a state, it is so easy to perpetuate the enslavement, the mental enslavement and the physical enslavement. And if we want to break out of this, and we call ourselves freedom fighters and we want freedom in our lives, it starts by breaking the mental enslavement and the emotional and spiritual enslavement that we have to those states of frequency that we just feel that they're more familiar and easier to be in, even if
Mm.
they don't serve a purpose. It's just
Yeah.
easy to feel sorry for ourselves. It's easy to just like be melancholic and or stressed or worried about something. We're tuned into that very automatically because that's what our default is. So it takes work to change habits and to really observe things and listen to yourself and be able to snap out of things like that. But
Mm.
that's the work I'd recommend people to do, because
I'm
that's
with
what's
you.
going to
Yeah.
prepare you for living in such a chaotic time.
Yeah, so true. I mean, look, there's subliminal messaging that's been going on for quite some time, which is why, tuning out versus, tuning in to a lot of frequencies is a process of elimination is always a good thing. But also, too, like, I don't think the solutions are that intricate either. I think that when you're in creation mode, which a lot of people don't find that they the first thing they sacrifice about themselves is their creativity. They get lost in their 9 to 5 job, and they in the mundane. They're buried by the thick of thin thins, as Stephen Covey would say, right? So they're just sort of going through the motions and stifling their creativity. So whether that be, music or dancing or writing or poetry, whether it be, playing an instrument, lifting weights, building something, or working towards your future, creating a financial plan, getting some sort of investment strategy, investing in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrency, or, looking at some sort of way to kind of build a little side hustle. All of these things take you out of the lower vibrational frequencies and into the higher vibes. And all you've
Yeah,
really done is come up with a new idea that's going to serve you and your family. Like it's a very simple way. And we haven't even
agree.
talked about sweating and exercising and eating, good food and nutritious food and stuff that's alive, and, like all of those things. Or being around great people, having fantastic conversations, making love, and all of those like nice juicy parts of intimacy, hugging your kids, all that kind of stuff. These are all
100%.
things that are fucking high vibration. It doesn't have to be very difficult by any means, right?
100%. 100%. For sure. Amen. Yeah.
Hey, look, I know you got a lot on your plate, but in wrapping this up, I didn't want to make it all about Bitcoin and or about money and things like that. But fuck, what's going on with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? I'm sick of buying the dip. I'm always just buying the dip, Efrat. Like, where's the moonshots?
Okay, good
I'm
question.
running out of coin to buy the dip with. I'm like frustrated at the moment.
Yeah, 2025 has been a tough year, and the last couple of months have been rough. So, first of all, I'm not the price expert, because if people follow me and they know who I am, they know that I'm in Bitcoin not to get rich. That's not my thing. I'm in Bitcoin because I want to hedge my wealth, and because I want to get it out of the fiat system, which is
Mm,
rotten and contributes to endless wars, etc. But Bitcoin is also a magnificent freedom tool that asks no permission and anyone can use, and that gives you a high degree of freedom. When it comes to the dollar price of it, that's why I care less as well, because if most of my wealth is already in Bitcoin, it's like, okay, I still have, for example, uh, 5 Bitcoin, right? So I still have 5 Bitcoin. Nothing has changed for me.
Yes.
It's like I still need to cash out a little bit if I want to live off of it, but
Sure, sure.
nothing has changed. But when you don't and you look at it as an asset, as an investment, and you really care that that asset will grow in dollar value, then you keep monitoring the price. And what people need to know about the short-term price, fiat price of Bitcoin, is that it's highly volatile. And for different reasons, different times, now it can be, crises like the oil crisis or any other excuse, Bitcoin will be volatile. It's got a low market cap, so it's a small asset still under the $2 trillion. It's not very small, but it's one of the smallest when you're looking at monetary assets. Just for comparison, gold before the big rise was about $14 trillion. I think now it's maybe double than that,
Mhm.
or even more, because of how much the price has gone up. But 2 trillion is definitely a good start for Bitcoin. It's only 16-year-old, it's young, so the high volatility characterizes a young asset. But also, when people go into Bitcoin, they know that they need to look at it in a longer time frame, at least 4 to 5 years. Some people even say 6, so that you can see the proper return on your investment. And trying to time the market to buy in the lowest point and then sell out at the highest point, that's a very hard task. That very, experts know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I just buy whenever I have money. So,
Same.
yeah, so that's my best tip for that will be what's called a DCA, dollar cost averaging,
Mhm.
meaning that if you have a chunk of money, you just allocate a portion of it every month or every period of time, and you just buy regardless of the dollar price, and it averages out in the end. So it goes up, it goes down, you keep buying consistently. And that's a strategy for investment called dollar cost averaging. And a lot of Bitcoiners do that. They just keep buying every month, for example, and then they ignore the short-term volatility because they just buy all the time.
Mm.
So dollar cost averaging is a good strategy. You mentioned Bitcoin or crypto. I'll just remind you, I'm not in crypto, and
Yes.
for a very good reason. It's just not the same. It's not the same game. You can't even compare it. So cryptocurrencies have an issuer. The issuer can control how much of that coin will be created, and the price can be manipulated a lot more easily. And when a lot of coins of a certain cryptocurrency are being printed or will be printed, what happens to the people that hold that coin? They get diluted. So it's like it's the same game as fiat. If you
Mm.
want to hold hard money in your hands, you either hold gold, but then be aware of its disadvantages, the shortcomings of physicality, needing to move it around or secure it and all that stuff. Or if you want to get the number one pristine asset, then go for Bitcoin, which
Bitcoin.
solves a lot of the problems of gold, because there is a fixed cap of 21 million coins of Bitcoin. No more will be printed. And
Mm.
that fixed supply is what gives Bitcoin its high value and its basically its rarity, its scarcity. And by having such a predictable issuance schedule for Bitcoin, the issuance of Bitcoin is going to end at the year 2140, 110 years from now. We know exactly how much Bitcoin is going to be mined every 10 minutes from now until then. And by the time it's done, it's done. And the only thing that can happen is trade between people that hold it. So we really are in the gold rush era of Bitcoin in the
Mm.
next 100 years. But guess how many Bitcoins can be created and can be mined in the next 110 years? Out of the 21 million, only
Yeah.
1 million, because 20 have already been created.
Wow.
20 million have already been created. So created and out there in the market.
Mm.
So, and we're looking, when you're looking at exchanges that are holding Bitcoin and allowing people to buy it today, those exchanges are running on very low quantities of Bitcoin in terms of liquidity. So we're going to see spikes in dollar price because there is a shortage or just a low availability of them out there because not many people want to buy. And what most people don't know, especially if they're like beginners in Bitcoin, is that we are at the stage where all the big suits have joined the game. They're in. So governments, central banks, bankers, financial institutions like BlackRock and others,
Mhm.
they're all in the Bitcoin game,
Yeah.
meaning they're all buying, they're all hoarding on it, and they understand that this is the number one asset. And the
Does that
reason why you're
concern you?
seeing all this crazy price manipulation and volatility now,
Yeah.
some of the reasons are all the derivatives trading around it and the
Of
futures
course.
trading around it. And the reason why you see that is because they're creating all these games to get the dollar price down so they can buy more, scare out everyone that looking at it going, oh, it's going down, I'm going to sell. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not what people told me it's going to be. Then they buy, BlackRock buys it,
Yes.
and then you're going to be left without. And when you want to buy it, guess who you'll have to buy it from? BlackRock for double the price, if not more.
Sure.
And you won't even be able to buy the actual asset. You'll go and buy a stupid ETF, which is paper Bitcoin. It's just a
Yeah.
paper stock, right?
But does that concern
So,
you, Efrat? I mean, like, what that's the thing from the
oh,
outside in is like when I see that there's such governmental infiltration of that market, I feel like
there's nothing you
perhaps
can do
they can be
about it. So
compromised.
why stress over? There's nothing you can do about it. Bitcoin is for anyone who wants to join the game. You can't stop it.
Sure.
And it's going to replace the world's reserve currency at one point. It is going to happen.
But
And
there's
they have
obviously
to be in
market
the game.
manipulation happening because, like you said, there's,
Yeah.
you know, if it doesn't seem, it would seem like a safe place to go. It, it it would seem like it would do what gold did during this economic crisis, but it actually didn't. It tanked just like.
First of all, there's a normally an 80 days delay between gold and Bitcoin
Mm,
tends to follow the same trajectory of gold. And if you price Bitcoin versus gold rather than versus US dollar, you'll see a totally different graph, a totally different picture,
sure.
right? The dollar is weakening, and when we compare dollar to Bitcoin, we get a totally different picture than we would if we would compare it to a hard asset like gold. So, and people can go and find on YouTube many people who show
Mm,
you what it looks like when you compare Bitcoin to gold. So it's doing pretty well actually when you compare it to gold. But again, as an asset, it will do better. The question is when. Is it going
when?
to be in the next 30 days, 120 days, or 3-4 years? It's a mathematical certainty that Bitcoin is going to be, the hardest asset ever, the most scarce asset ever. It is already, just people don't know it. So if you are starting your journey now and starting to learn it now, you have an early advantage, an early runner advantage, and you should take advantage of that
Mm,
because
interesting point.
it's not gonna be easy later. But people will wake up at one point and want to get it. It will be very expensive. So
Yeah, I think that's probably the. It's not something that I worry about the most, but it's certainly something that I can acknowledge now that the writing's on the wall, and there's just really nothing that you can do to stop
yeah,
the collapse of the dollar and the rise of digital currency. So
yeah,
it just depends on which side of that you land on, because if you're stuck with CBDCs,
that's right.
then
Or
obviously
regulated stable coins, which are
yes,
similar.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
but yeah.
So that's certainly something that you don't want to be left
Anything that
holding
is
back.
centralized and is under the control of
Agreed.
the
Yeah.
establishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as much as we hate to see BlackRock or the others holding Bitcoin, there's nothing they can do to change the protocol. There's nothing they can do to control it. I mean,
Mm,
you can spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Epstein being behind Bitcoin as much as you want, Bitcoin does not give a fuck. Bitcoin doesn't care. It keeps on working every 10 minutes. It's like its own entity. Speaking of spirituality, seriously, like, so people need to do more work and learn, and it's going to be the best gift that they've given themselves if they discover this now. So
Well, until the next time, this has been a great conversation.
and
Uh,
you
if,
know,
right, say it
us
again.
Bitcoiners, we go, hey, great, another buying opportunity. This is a discount. And we just
Yeah,
keep
that's
buying
right.
when it's low. That's it.
Yeah, I get it. Look, I'd like I said to you, I have a laugh because um, I kind of went the other way. I went opposite to Bitcoin and into the cryptocurrencies and yeah, the
Like many people do
XRPs
at the beginning till they fall
all
on
the
their
rest
face.
of it. So, I mean, it's speaking to you and to Jack and to Breed Love and all these people. Like everyone's got a convincing game. I must admit, but I do have a big I've got FOMO, when it comes to like Bitcoin and things like. So I want to have some money in there just in case it kind of goes off. But at the moment, I think any spare coin that I've got, it's sort of that's the asset class that I'm going with. But until
Good
such
luck.
times where like I can kind of like move into different asset classes. I still love business. I still love, like e-commerce and things like that. Like there's so many things that I think are still really good opportunities out there. And after coming unstuck during
It
the
will
pandemic,
always be, Adrian, that the Bitcoin is
I agree.
not going to end that, and it's not instead of that. It's a complementary tool for you. So if what you do
Great
is
point.
e-commerce work, you can ask people to pay you in Bitcoin, then you can earn it like that. You can
Yeah,
implement
yeah.
an add-on to your website that will allow people to pay with a credit card or with
Or
Bitcoin. And
Bitcoin.
if
Yeah,
people want to part with their Bitcoin, why not? I'll take it from you, no problem.
yeah. I saw a Bitcoin ATM at the service station down the road here.
Oh
So
yeah, that's
it's like,
awesome.
yeah, when I saw that, I thought of you. And then, like I said to you on Instagram, I thought of you, and then I thought, oh, I should really get Efrat back on the podcast. And then I was listening to Tucker and to Brett speak, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Her name's getting dropped, and I thought to myself, fuck, she's going to be a real target. Once that comes out of Tucker's mouth, and then you said to me, you're causing a shitstorm over there on the X. So, anyway, keep being you. I think
Thank
you're
you. Thank you,
fantastic.
dear. Thanks
So,
for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, it's my pleasure. I look forward to catching up real soon. Okay.
All right.
All right. Bye for now.
Ciao.